Hello everyone, welcome back. I am Kung Fu Beer and we are doing another Run 8 video. This one is specifically about basic train handling or train operations. This is so that it will help you prepare for a skills test that we have for both the High Green Run 8 server and the Mateo community server. I'm not telling you how to do the skills test, but I am showing you the operations of trains for things that we would be looking for. It's all the basic train operations that you would need to know to pass that. And I will be using the skills test that is available in the Discord to show you how we're going to launch it. And we'll use the same situation to show you basic train operations. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right. So we've already copied that scenario that I was talking about. So if you want to follow along, you're going to load the scenario. I'll show you how to do that right now. However, this is just basic train operation, so it all will apply for everything. So I've already launched Run 8 here. All we care about is the region. I have all the DLCs. So you only care about the one highlighted in blue here. And that's the default map, and that's where the skills test is going to take place anyways. So we'll select that one only. And now we're going to select the skills test and hit launch. That puts us right here in the Barstow hump yard. That's actually the receiving yard. The hump yard is, we're looking directly back at it, but this is the Barstow receiving yard where all the trains come in and then they get humped. So the scenario has this right here next to one of the humpers, and we're going to show you how to set this. We'll connect the train, set everything, get everything ready, and then if you so choose to AI it, how to set that up. So, and then we'll move over to the engines that are over here and connect some of the road trains and get them out of here. So that's what we're going to cover in this video. And again, controls and keyboard right here tell you how to do everything that you need to know using the keyboard. For example, camera free fly, left shift F12 doesn't look like it did anything, but if you look and you go in the air by holding your WASD and control, makes you go faster. Let off control, it goes slower. We can fly around. If you hit F12 again, you're back on the ground. So use the controls and keyboard to learn what the keys do. Write them down if you need to, but that is your responsibility. First thing I'm going to do is get this engine up and running, and this is going to be, since we're in the receiving yard, we're going to start the hump of this guy right here, but we have to first get this thing going. Fastest and easy way to do that is just press start all locomotives, auto MU, auto circuit breakers, auto air brakes. Don't worry about the EOT because they will put it on the engine. You don't need it unless you're on the road. That's the fastest way, but you can also just simply click on the engine, click start right here, and I'll get it started. Also going to start the back one at the same time. If I would have pressed start all locomotives, it would start every locomotive in the consist. You'll also notice that it says isolate down here, which means the diesel engine may be running, but you have no control over it. So you'd have to select run in order to do it. You don't have to select start to get it, select start to start it up, although you would in the real thing. And then we have the two locomotives running. This one is the main, as we started it first, and this one would be basically a slave, but if you see right here, it just says lead. And the reason it says lead, because we don't have the multiple unit MU cable connected. Now we do, so now this second engine will respond to the controls of the first one as long as it's in run. Also verify our brakes are connected, they currently are connected, and our angle cocks are open. So the brakes are good on both units to work in conjunction. The next thing we have to do is, even if you push this auto MU, which connects those cables for us, the additional engines, if the orientation is different than the main, the lead engine, so this is the lead engine, BNSF 6894, These are SD40s. They don't have DPU capability anyways, but if there is a cable directly connected to each engine, they act as MUs. This one is reversed from the lead, and you'll see right here, so this is the status, this is the direction, and I'm not sure, this is a helper setup. We're not using helpers right now. You would if you had some behind a bunch of cars, and those would be helpers because they don't have the ability to be remote controlled from the lead set here. But this one's reversed, so we'll click MU so that we can select reverse, and then we'll click right now where it says DPU lead to change it back to MU. And now this engine or any other engines will respond when the controls here are manipulated. However, we would need to set the circuit breakers first before that will work. However, I'm going to show you another way to do it manually if you so choose. You can't start it manually though, you actually have to go in to the cab to do that. I also have my lights not set up right now. I'm moving the lights, but they're not coming on. The reason is that this is listed as single right now, but we don't have the circuits set. But I'm going to set this to the short hood lead. So this is the lead engine. The short hood is going forward, so that's short hood lead. This is long hood here. The reverse, the secondary unit here, the second power unit, the long hood is here, but since it's a trailing unit, we're going to say this again, the short hood is trailing. If they're both faced the same way, then we'd say that was long hood trail, but on this side, which is trailing, the short hood is trailing. So those are the headlight setups. Now we're going to go into the engine, and there's a couple ways to do that. We can simply, the way that I prefer, because whatever unit you do this to, you'll be inside of. So if I hold the F11 key and just click on it, it'll eventually put me in there. I don't know why it took so long. But now we're inside the lead unit. And you see, because the conductor's over here, Arnold Icken is currently the conductor, sitting there staring at me. From here we're at the control stand. I like to always turn the gauge lights on because you never know it's going to get dark. I don't need to turn on the lights in the cab because it's daytime. But here's our control stand switches. The engine's in run. The control and fuel is from here, and the gen field means these controls will respond when we do something. So the parking brake's on, or the handbrake, you can turn those off from outside, or you can hit F5 to turn them off. Again, you'll see that here under your controls and keyboard. I have a rail driver, so I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to activate my independent brake here so the train doesn't roll. This is the independent brake, and you can also hold, I don't know what keys it does, that's your responsibility to figure out, but this is the train brake here. The red is the train brake. We don't have any cars, so sending air everywhere doesn't really matter. We'll use, with just the locomotives or in the yards, we typically will use the train brake. I also need to activate my lights. I'm in the yard, so I don't need to have them on bright. Mainline and approaching crossings, you have to have your bright lights on per the rules of train operations. You're in a game though, or a sim, so you should do it, but nobody's going to chastise you if you don't, that I believe. We have our dynamic braking here. We have our reverser here. So that sets the direction that we're going to go. And then dynamic braking is part of the throttle, but you have to be, if your throttle's in any notches here, you won't be able to go into dynamic braking. You have to go back to 0 before you can actually set up and then engage your dynamic braking. Okay, and then I bail off all the time. I don't know what key that is. Again, your responsibility to figure that out. But bailing off releases any air pressure in the locomotives, not in the cars. So I'm going to go in reverse here. Now that I have all these control stands set, I will be able to operate my locomotive. So I have the dynamic brakes correction, I have the locomotive brakes off, and I have train brakes off. The train brakes will operate the locomotive as well, but it sends air all the way down the line. So you want to make sure that you have all your brakes off. And then I'm going to go outside. Standing outside, we're going to go connect to those cars back there. So let's check our lights real quick. Lights are activated in the front. Bright lights work. We don't need them because we're in the yard. And then we'll go back here and we'll check the reverse lights, or the trailing lights real quick, to make sure that they also operate. And they do. Now to step on any of the cars, you can just simply hit E here. Now I'm attached to it. If I do hit F11, correction, Shift F11, it will cycle me through the different parts of the car that I'm on. Put myself back on the ground. If I want to go inside, simply again hold F11 and click the cab that you want. Now you see we're looking at those cars, so we're in the secondary unit right now, and these, well, the gen field's on. I'm not sure why, if it needs to be on or not, but you can see so if I move any of these controls, because these switches are off, none of these will work. But if you hear me not throttle, so I'm controlling everything here from the other unit, the main, the lead. So we give it a little bit of a, we whistle 3 times going backwards. You can also turn the bell on, if crossing bell, or if we're in between cars, we'd operate that. Not really needed here in the receiving yard because there's nobody around. I also like to turn this on at the very top of the screen, so and you can cycle these. Right now our train symbols tag me properly. We'll set that up in a minute. HPT is 0 because we don't have any cars attached. No loads, no empties, 12 axles, 138 feet. So I like to see there's a time, the status of our reverser, how fast we're going, and then you have your air, 4 air system indicators, master reserve, equalizing reserve, brake pipe, and your flow rate. And then what notch we're in, and BC, a main reservoir, so that's main reservoir. And then BC, that's your train brake. I don't know what the BC stands for. I know what it's for, I just don't remember what the name, brake cylinder maybe? Okay, so we're now attached. We don't need the light on there because nobody's going to see us anyways. And we don't have any brake lines connected. If you connect on a car, you see that our brakes are cut in. We can bleed out an individual car here. We can see the destination tag. And if it had hazmat or anything, the status of the handbrakes, and how heavy the car is. You see there's no air in them whatsoever. If I hit F7, I have a cheat here that well, we all have a cheat. Train F7 cheat. I currently have it so that the air is off. If I click that on and I hit F7, it will set the angle cocks all to the correct position, connect the air hoses, and fill the cars with air. So now you see we have air in it. However, I'm going to hit Control F7, which bleeds all the air out of all the cars. And now I'm going to close my engine angle cock here. And then I'm going to disconnect. It's going to blow the brake pipe of all these. And we're going to hump this. You can leave these connected. It will actually disconnect as it goes over the hump. But that, like in an industry, I usually bleed the brakes so the cars are easier to kick or move around. In order to hump these cars, there's a couple things that we have to do. First of all, we need to tag the train so that it knows. So if we're going to hump it manually, you don't have to tag it, but you simply would say bar hump, and that way anybody else knows that that's what it's for. But the important thing is the hump. If you have AI do it, it won't hump it unless it has the words hump in there. So now we go over here to the hump control station, and we hit Control F6 to bring up the Barstow hump yard controller, and these are the different configurations we want the hump yard to be in. So if we set it to the bar, so it depends on the cars that we have, the tags of the cars. Our cars are currently tagged for FTW. That's Fort Worth. So if we look at the controller, Control F6, if we look through these different, so these are we got from depot configs or the modified ones that we have on the Mateo community server. This is the current configuration that we use. And if we look for that FTW, we don't see any in this one. So we're going to figure out which ones we want to sort them by. Because if we pick the wrong one, it's just literally going to put them all in the slough track. Slough means I don't know where it goes. So we'll lead it. We'll just, we'll let it do whatever. So if we're looking for FTW, I'm not seeing anything here. These are all different yards, and they're sorting. FTW Fort Worth is off map. So it's literally just going to set them up to the slough track. If you want to see how to adjust this for your needs or create new ones on your single player game, there's other videos out there. I'm not going to cover that. It's really easy. So we'll just pick the bar industry one because everything's going to go to slough anyways. So we're going to choose this one, and the hump controller status here we're going to enable. Make sure the auto pin puller is also enabled so that the cars get pinned and they can roll down the track. So now that we're enabled, we're going to get back to the train and we're going to let the AI take care of it. But we got to check some switches first. So it's coming off that track, which means it's going to go down here or down this other set, however we choose for it to get there. If we look right now, I'm going to hit F3 to the Barstow yard. So we're right here. We looked at that. We want to change to the hump. So we want to come in off of this track. This is us here. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to push left click here. If I hit F1, you see that Auto DS is off. Let's say Auto DS is on like it always is on the server. I right click to change that back to white from blue, what I'm selected at. So now with auto, the dispatcher turned on, we want to roll this R5. We want to go right here. So I'm going to change this one. So it actually let me do that, but sometimes it won't. So if I change this one, it's also going to change it. And then we want to change these so that we're rolling backwards through here, coming down and right through the hump. So if we, for example, say, if you click on the switch, let me stay on the ground. So right now it's lined up correctly. Let's say I want to switch that. And it's saying up here that's a CTC switch. You must first ask the dispatcher. So since I've clicked this and it says no, then you go back to the F3. It tells you in flashing in purple here, that's the one you're trying to change. So if I right click and then left click, it will change it. But sometimes if it's not flashing, like so now it's flashing again. It keeps telling me I can't do it because auto is on. By pressing F1, you can see the status. We'll get out of there by hitting escape. This is all lined up. And sometimes it really won't let you change it. So if I look here on this switch and I say, oh, I want to change this one here. Sometimes on this screen it says that's a CTC switch, you can't change it. And so in that case, what you do, you try to change it, tells you CTC switch, then you hit escape and then you can click it and it should change. If not, you may have to go back and forth between the two different screens to change them. It will eventually change by clicking on them or clicking on them in the first person here or through the DS screen. So looks like our switches are aligned. If we're going to AI this, these are CTC switches, meaning they're computer controlled. So they will get changed automatically if they can be, depending on the yard. Some of them are manual throws and auto can't throw manual switches. So let's get back up to the train. And since our tag here has bar hump, we can see here that they're all full. They're all FTW. We have the name hump in there. So now we're going to get out of that screen and we're simply, because we have the F6 hump yard enabled, we are going to simply AI recruit. And it says it's been recruited by AI for humping because it has the name hump in it. And now the train's going to take itself and it's going to hump those cars. So this is not me touching anything. It's all AI controlled. Now on the server, please realize that if you are doing AI hump operations, it's going to push it back here and it's going to separate all the cars. Well, these tracks get full. So if you have a super long train, let's say this track here, number 1, is full of FTW cars. And what you're humping has 32 FTW cars in it, but the tracks over here can only hold like 5 more FTWs. Well, you have to clear that track before you hump. Otherwise, it's going to hump and then it will stop after it realizes that I can't send any more there. And some of the cars will be out here past these retarders. These speed up or slow down the cars to get to where they need to go. But half the train will be out here and it will stop operations. So then you have to pull the cars forward, reset the hump controller. You've got to clear out that hump yard before you can continue. So please make sure if you're going to do AI operations that the tracks have enough room to accept all the cars before you start. Okay, so that's now we've basically relinquished that over to AI control. So the AI is going to perform that function, which means we're going to grab an engine and come over here and grab these. So let's go do that now. All right, I'm standing on the ground. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on our engine and we're going to start everything. We're going to auto MU everything. We're going to auto circuit brake and auto air brake everything. And then we just let them start up. And as they wind up, get ready. We'll look at them. It's currently in run because the auto circuit breaker is currently in run because when we press the button for auto, and this one, the MU is backwards, but it still says forward. So again, press MU, change forward to reverse, and then DPU lead back to MU, And now these trains are going to operate as one unit. There is a tag on here. It says tag me properly. On the Mateo server and the High Green Run 8 server, we put the other locomotives typically as just an X. The important thing is the tag of where this train is going, which we don't know yet because we don't have our cars. So we're going to go get those, and then we'll tag this so that the auto dispatching can get us where we need to go for routing purposes. Otherwise, it doesn't know how to get us there. So everything should be connected. Everything looks good. We see that the humping operations is continuing over here. Where's it at? I'm going to hop on the back here so we see what's going on. I'm just going to take a quick peek here. A lot of times when you're off the main line, we can't see where our cars are. These white indications are free tracks. The red indications, not the dots, but the lines, mean that there's something on that track. So you can see the hump. It's red. That means there is a train there. But besides that, if we look, I don't think anything else is going to show up here. But you'll see cars around here if we had that loaded in the scenario. See all the red lights? As far as dispatching or needing to change signals, the only time you really need to do anything is if you're pulling off the main or you're going in between a main to a switch, like for a local service. You can give yourself a restricting. So if I want to change the switch, I can do that since the signals are red. If they're not red, you can't, it won't let you change it. If I right click and change it to this white, this is a restricting signal. And if I try to change this, it literally won't let me because of the signal. So I have to right click again to turn it back gray. It will go after 30 seconds or something back to red, and then I'll be able to operate that switch. Also, for the purposes of this, it's back to red as you can see now. Let's say I'm here at main 3 and this is the Cajon Pass. Let's go to where we are. This is Barstow. So let's say I'm in the yard here, in the south departure yard, which is right here where we're looking. And I want to move this train here out. Well, I follow the dotted lines to here, south departure yard. I want to get on the main. And in order to do that, so you can see the little line underneath, that's the ground. So that's going this way. You see the line with the signal on top. And this way is the opposite way. So if you're coming right here, that's not signals, not for you, because it's got the light and then the ground that's coming from this direction. So if I want to go, let's say I want to switch and I want to go towards CP Hodge here down the Cajon Pass, I'm right clicking to change it from blue to white or white to blue. But if we're here on this one, we want to come up, we're on this track here, we want to come up. We want to go this way and then change the main one and go out this way to give ourselves, if auto is not on, because if I do this, I left click and it says you can't set it because auto DS is on. But if I turn that off in single player, for example, we'll wait a second for everything to change back. I can make this come and go by hitting X or F1 and make it go away. So if I change this to now, this is an approach signal, and that means I now have a yellow will give me to the next signal. I want to continue and continue and continue. You don't want to go too far. Now we can turn this one to green, this one to green, this one to green, and that one would stay yellow because the next one is a red. So you always have to have red, yellow, and then you can have greens before them. You can also leave them as green. They will turn green in the server itself if you're dispatching or in your single player, if you're dispatching yourself, if you leave them yellow, they will be green on your screen. The last one, though, will be yellow. Now, the signals here, these are all control point signals. You'll have intermediates in between in many cases, and those react based on these two signals. So if you have two signals in here, if that's yellow, the next one's going to be yellow, the next one's going to be yellow flashing, telling you that that last one's going to be red. To change these signals, if I want to change them back, I right click twice, turn them back to gray, where they will reset. All these automatic switches, you don't have to worry about resetting because auto can move them. They are not hand throw switches. I'll show you hand throw switches in just a bit. In the yard here in Barstow, all the switches and most of the switches are automatic switches, CTC switches. So that means the dispatcher can automatically change them. Okay, now we're gonna head back. Again, I put this up here. Parking brake off. Spin her up a little bit. Now we're going to reverse here to go get our cars. Yard speed is 15 miles an hour, 10, 15, depends on the, so the yard master actually sets that, and it has to do with the hazards in the yard. So you can go a couple miles over without hurting anybody, but try to keep it within the right speed because it will get away from you. I see that we have a green signal here. That means we're going straight through. That's clear for us. If it was amber, see that's amber, there's cars on the track up there. But if this was amber, that means that the switch is against us. So we'd want to stop and fix that. Technically, you can go this way over the switch and it'll allow you through, but then when you come back the other way, it switches on you. So I'm right here right now, and there's no cars on this track, but I need to come back here before I can go up that way. These larger engines have automatic bells, so when you do whistle, it will turn them on automatically. I should also have my... See, now that the engine's on there, you see how that went from off to orange. That means there's cars on this track. So this one is green because that's the switch setting, but this one is orange, meaning that there's something on these tracks. So I go here. That's a CTC switch, you knucklehead. So you have to go in here and change it. You also see that my train is listed here. But if I was off the main or not here in the yard, it wouldn't say anything. Okay, so now the switch is in my direction. You can see the second switch up here is not. There's cars on this track. And there's cars on this track. There is no cars on this track. We're going to come up through here, but the switch is against us. So that's called a bad switch. So I want to switch this one here. You see it switching. If I go back here, you see I still have that blue. I like to make them white so I can see what they are. And now I'm going to go forward. And here we come. We're going to go to the first switch there. We got to pass it all the way before we can change it though. See, the humper over here is done with its operations. And that's where it stays. It shuts down and the AI go to lunch. So we'll bring the train towards us here past that switch. And actually walk over here and watch as we pass this switch here. I do have sound enhancements installed, so you'll hear a lot more noise on mine than you will normally. the wheels are passed, I'm going to use the independent brake to stop the locomotives. Click this, but it's again telling me a CTC switch. So now it won't, I've highlighted it blue, I'm trying to click it. It did finally, because it sees part of my train there, but that's not correct. I am not there anymore. I'm going to jump on the engine, go backwards, take off my locomotive brake since I'm in reverse with a little bit of throttle. When I did honk the whistle, the bell comes on. There's nobody here to alert, so I'm going to turn the bell off. You can't hear it from here. Watch the train go down the track here. 13 miles an hour. And then we'll fly to the other side. So that was that Control F12, I believe. So here's the hump. The hump operations has been completed. I won't be able to do this, I don't think, because I'm in control of that train. I was going to turn off those guys so that Garrison doesn't have a overly large fuel bill. Because he has to pay for gas since he owns the server. I also have enhancement packs for the paint schemes on a lot of these. So as you watch this video, you will see graffiti and rust and all kinds of authentic looking cars here. I also have all the cargo, the freight packs. I don't have all the engine packs, but I have all the freight packs. So if you don't, all you'll see is boxcars. And I also have all the routes. There's a lot of money in this game, but I have probably 2,000 hours in the last year. So as we bring our train back, if you look, I'm doing 20 miles an hour, so that's over speeding in the yard. If we look here, it doesn't actually say here, but if we were on the main line, it would say that we are speeding. It would be purple. So purple, if you see a car that has purple, it's some sort of defect, whether it's dragging equipment or derailed. I think it shows derailed purple. It could be that the engine has some defects, and I'll show you that in a second as well. So I'm going to slow her down to the yard speed here, 15 miles an hour. I mean, if you speed, just slow down, you know. Shouldn't be speeding, but if you do, it's okay. Just get her slowed down. But we're not going to want to smash into these cars at that speed, so I'm using independent brake, cycling it on and off to get it down to about 4 miles an hour. And that's a nice connect there. So we talked about the braking for the cars. If we're going on the road, there's a couple things we're going to need to do. First thing we're going to need to do is connect all the air hoses. You see how many cars I have. If you don't want to count them, you can, again, I don't know which it is. It's called the train HUD though. Control Z, what is it? Shift Z will cycle at the very top of the screen all these different indications. So I'm going to go, I was on this one here, so Shift Z again tells me my horsepower per ton, which anywhere in SoCal, the minimum is 2.0, but it depends on the sub that you're on. So, because of the grades. So here in the yard, if you're running 2, you should be able to pull enough, you know, have enough power to pull cars around. But if you need to leave the yard, you're going to need to make sure that you have enough horsepower per ton for where you're going, including where you're at. So that could be up to 2.3 if you're going to Bakersfield, for example. But you also don't want to have, you know, 6 or 7 horsepower per ton, because that's not how railroads operate. They try to get the most money for the amount of weight that they have. And so there's different symbols, which we'll cover in a minute as well. The symbols determine how much horsepower per ton that you would have. And if you're just a generic train, an M train, a mixed consist, you would literally have the bare minimum or just slightly above the bare minimum in order to get that load where it needs to go. So our train is currently 3.3. The tons are 4098, so 4,000, almost 5,000 or 4,100 tons. We have 30 cars here. We have 30 of them are all loaded, no empties. So we had 3 empties and 30 loads. It would be 33 cars total, not counting the engines. And then where it says axles 138 and DB axles is 31. That's how many axles our power has. The total length is 2015, which for BNSF, the maximum here in Southern California is 12,000 feet. For UP, it's 8,000 feet. So your train cannot exceed that length from the front of the first engine to the back of the last car or engine, whatever's there. The total train length cannot exceed those. Now, back to the airlines. Again, train F7, I'm not going to go and connect every single car. You can just by clicking on here, say connect. That one's closed, that one's open. And then you'd come here and do exactly the same thing. Connect, make sure each one is open. So I click the car behind me. So that's how you would go through and verify. If you want to just simply air up all the cars, have everything ready to go, here you would check air. I don't like to do that myself. I like a little more realism, so I have air unchecked. But if I hit F7, it's going to connect all the airlines of all the cars and set all the angle cocks appropriately. So they're all open. However, the first thing I need to do in this case is check my engine. Okay, so that's closed. But before I open it, I want to go to the very back of the train. I want to come here and make sure it is closed, because if I open that engine and this one is open, I'm going to dump my air and then a PCS will happen, which is the emergency braking system. So I'm going to actually, since this is going to go on the road, I'm going to put an EOT on there. And then I need to open this so that the EOT can get air. The EOT is fed by the end of train device, EOTD, is fed by air. It measures the air in the back of the train. It also does send out a signal so that the signals, well actually I don't think the signals are controlled by this, the crossings. So we're back in here, we have an EOT now, and we'll see that the rear of the train is still 0, but we have not opened the valve to send air back to the cars. So we need to get back out of the engine. And again, so the first car we're going to open. The last engine that's going to send air out, we're going to go partial at first, and then we need to, again, Control Z, Shift Z, sorry. And we need to watch our flow rate, this cubic foot per minute rate. Right now it's 150. These cars are completely empty. So it's sending all the air through the airline all the way to the back of the train. Once that goes below 80, then we can go full open on the angle cock. If we do it now, we're going to get a PCS. I'll show you how to recover from PCS as well. So we got to wait for that. And while doing that, I noticed that we have another set of cars going in the same direction. So we're actually going to double up, which means we're going to take this train, pull it forward, and back it up to get these cars as well. I'll keep the EOT on for now until we, so I can see the air in back of the train, or you can simply click on the last car and it tells you can see the numbers coming up here. The brake pipe is coming up and then your reserves. So your auxiliary reserve, your emergency reserve, and the brake cylinder will tell you if you have air on. Once we connect everything, we'll do a brake test to make sure that the air is operating correctly, and then I'll show you how to do the handbrake test. I'll get this thing aired up, and then I'll be right back. Okay, and we're back. We have, we have 90 pounds equalizer reservoir and brake pipe, and the rear now has 90. So the flow is down to 1. So let's go ahead and get out of the train here, out of the cab. Remember, we left the valve partially open, the angle cock here. So we'll go ahead and go full open. And what we're going to want to do now is we want to pull forward so we can come back and get these cars. Now before we do that, I'm going to go to the rear of the train here. I'm actually going to remove this guy here. So to remove the end of train device, I need to close the valve first, because when I remove it, it literally, if I had it plugged in, all the air would leak out. And then we're going to go over here. We're going to put it on this one, since we're going to grab this one. And we're going to attach EOT here. It's open already. We don't have control of this train yet until we connect to it. So we'll leave this as it is. Now you'll see the cars here, just as a side note. These are where they're going. SDG is San Diego. And you'll see that these are red. So if we click on the car here, you can see that it's got 93 tons. So if we look in the tagger, we can see how full they are. But, you know, before you take cars, you typically want the loaded cars up towards the front of the locomotive. That way you don't have empty cars in the middle getting slammed around as you're going down the tracks. And the green here indicates it's empty. So if we look on this one here, see there's zero in it. However, that's something that should be done in the yard. If Yardmaster has prepared this train and they didn't put all the loads at the front of the train, and they got empties at the front and the loads at the rear and stuff. It depends on where you're going. If it's really hilly, you're gonna want to make some adjustments to that, because your cars can derail because of it. So in the these are the classification tracks, so this is the classification yard over here where we did hump these guys. I'm going to go shut off the engines right now over there at the hump yards to save Garrison some gas. These are running now, but in order to do anything with them, I have to go to train and relinquish. That means I no longer own this train. So I can now select another one. So I'm going to click on this guy, and I'm just simply going to turn it off. Make sure the headlights are off. And now I'm done with that. I'll go back up here to train, relinquish, and then we'll come back over and grab these again. Now, after I relinquish the trains, I still like to just set everything again, just to make sure that everything is good on my end. And we also need to tag this train so that it can be routed. Now, we see the cars are all labeled SDG, but if they had multiple names on here, they're going to a general direction off map. So in this case, they're all going to San Diego. So we're going to click on any of the cars actually, and hit tagger. And we're going to, so under depot, I'll put a link here that says where to go to find this stuff. But we're going to call this, the symbol of the train is M. So that means it's a mixed freight manifest. Now if we look at it, which it won't let me do here, right now we've got all these like grain cars, but we're going to pick up some of these hoppers too and double up. So it's going to be a mixed manifest. If it's all grain, we can call it, you know, a unit train. But in this case, it's going to be mixed. So if it's BNSF, we put the symbol and then a dash. If it's UP, it's just simply, it'll be M or whatever the appropriate symbol is for the train that you're carrying. And we're going to say M-SDG the origination, which is Barstow, and the destination, which is San Diego, so SDG. And then we'll verify that these say SDG or a yard that would handle all of the, so example, if you have the Fort Worth cars over here and then AATL Atlanta, then we'd probably send them all to Fort Worth. Or if you had New York and Chicago, then the cars would probably go somewhere like Albuquerque, ABQ, where it would then get reclassified and split down into smaller trains, or they would add longer ones that are going that direction. So now that we have M-bar SDG, it's not required, but a lot of times you'll see the yard masters, they'll do XX, and that's the date that the train is actually departing the yard. So for this case, today is the 3rd of April. I'm just going to do 03. And now we are fully tagged and ready to go. So we're going to be on this track here pulling forward. If I look at F3, the train that we have is going to come out up to this point here, and we can actually switch that track. We'll let auto do that once we get to that point, but we want to make sure we have enough room to pull out and back in on this track here. So the switches are aligned, and we'll go ahead and get up here and prepare ourselves to double up. So double up or triple up means to connect. I pushed the wrong button. To connect to additional cars and take them with us. So as I fly around and make you all dizzy and throw up here, I'm going to go on the ground, because like in the server, again, you can't change switches when you're standing in the air, but on single player where I'm at now, you can. So I'm going to turn on my lights there. Parking brakes are coming off. Again, I use this at the very top of the screen. And notch 3, you want to start with slow notch, because if you start right away, you're going to have a coupler damaged. And actually, I should show you that. Let's see if I can get if I can break a coupler here. Oh, you know what? We'll wait till we double up. What I'll do is I'll put a handbrake. I'll put some handbrakes on the cars and just yank it. See if I can break a coupler and tell you how to fix that. So I'll see you as soon as we get ready to switch and back up. All right, I got a counter going, and we got about 1,000 feet left to clear the switches back there. See, I do have red lights up there, which means I cannot pass that. However, if I needed more room and the coast was clear, I could simply right-click on the light and turn it white, which will be a restricting, which means I have to be able to stop in half of the distance that I can totally see. So a flashing red light is a restricting signal, but I'm not going to need that, as the track in front of me, the red light is here. So I have that much room with only 400 feet that I set a counter for to know when the back of my train is clear. This light here is for this track. And we have hand throws here that are green, which means I'm going to be able to continue straight without derailing. I'm going to throw one of those and show you what happens when you derail though. So the signal here has no markers on it whatsoever. So this is a control point or an absolute signal. You cannot proceed past a red light at an absolute signal. So these signals here, they have number plates on them. These are intermediate signals. So you'll notice that they're not lit because, well, the trains haven't been, the absolute signal's red, and these haven't been activated by the dispatcher. So these are turned off, and these are stop and proceeds. So if this was red, but it has a plate on there, a number plate, you can actually pull up to the signal, verify it's clear, and then proceed without even having a green light. All right, we're back here. We have 9129 is tagged correctly to go to San Diego. And let's say we need a little bit more feet in order to double up in the yard. Things that we're going to need to do, we're going to need to set this to restricting and make sure that our switches are set correctly. So to do that, we'll go here F3. And again, so I'm on this track here and the dotted lines come up to this. I have that switch set correctly. It's going down this main 2, which turns into main 1 over here. In order to change the signal, you see it's completely red right now. I right click on it, it turns white, and that means now I have a restricting, a flashing red. In order to clear this flashing red, the locomotive must pass the signal. Let's do that right now. Going on to the main there, so the brights need to be on now. So we're pulling cars forward a little bit. You see I have the restricting light. So I have to be able to stop within half that distance that I can see. So watch the light turn red as we move past it. And now it's solid red, but I'm already past that signal, so I can continue. However, I want to reverse because I got to go pick up the load. I have just enough room now to back up, so now it's okay because I don't have a signal on the other side, and I'm already occupying this track. Okay, so let's talk about what to do if you derail. I'm pulling forward. I'm at the signal. I'm at an absolute signal. Let's give myself a restricting. Let's verify we're not past it already because we won't be able to. Yeah, we're just past it. We're actually right at it. Alright, so we have a restricting signal. And if we pull forward, we have to all clear to pull forward slightly within the restricting speed guidelines. So now we're going over. And this is what happens if you derail. You can see that the tires are on that track. These ones are going to be on this one. See how the cars so what happened is if we continue, brake lines are going to break and you're going to have all sorts of problems. So we'd have to realize this ahead of time to stop the brake. And then you can also, if the wheels come off, you can click on it and either re-rail easy or you want to re-rail the direction that you're going. But my wheels aren't off the track, so it won't let me put the frogs out. But since we found this in time and stopped it, let's back up. And once we make this correction here, set the tracks the way we want to go, but yeah, let's go double up. Okay, so if we come in too hot and we break a coupler, trying to stop it. So we just busted a bunch of couplers, and now we got to find where they're broken. We also got to check the cars, make sure that none of the wheels derailed. We got to find where the coupler is broken. Usually there'll be a indication because the brake lines will be disconnected. So we have EOT here. All these cars, we never had a chance to connect the brake lines anyways because we didn't have control of this set of cars yet. till we slammed into them and broke some couplers. So let's go look and find where the broken couplers are. That's pretty easy. So here's our engine. And there's a broken coupler. That's what it looks like. Stand on the ground here. That's broken for sure. So to fix it, just click on it. Say fix broken coupler, and now the air is out too. Because we had all of our air was charged here. And we can hear it coming out. So we'll close that angle cock, but it's too late because if we go in the engine, we have a PCS open. So how do we clear that? So we have multiple problems going on right now. And we have to clear everything. So in the case of the PCS, I have my dynamic brake on, or you can turn on your handbrake as well. We need to come out of gear, and then we're going to put our train brake into emergency. And by doing that, on this particular train, sometimes there's a countdown that will tell you that you are trying to clear your PCS error. And so as I change DS screen here, you can see move train brake handle to release in 25 seconds. So this one does display, it's just on a different screen. All right, we're coming down to the wire here, so 0 seconds. So now set the reverser to neutral, move train brake to release. That clears the PCS. We can now move our cars backwards. We've already repaired the coupler. We'll stand on the ground here. Let's go ahead and go in reverse now, as that the train will respond. We have our handbrake on, so the train's not moving. Let's take that off. Remember, we don't want to get too much speed, so I'm going to use the independent brake to slow us down since there's only one car. If the train was heavy, we can use air, but we don't need air. And we can now connect this hose, and we can go through our air status, or we can simply turn on, connect everything at once. So now all of our cars, you see the flow rate coming down now. And since we have an EOT on the very back, we may have blown PCS again, which we did. So we hit F7 again. That will clear all that, and now train is ready to go. Okay, now that we got everything ready to go, we want to depart the Barstow yard headed towards San Diego according to our tags. So hold F11 and then click on the cab. Eventually it should let us in there. We have to look on the other side. So we're inside the cab. If we contact dispatch, so if we look right now, I've set all the switches so that all the switches are against us. And to go to San Diego, it should actually throw this one for us. This one, and whichever of these two tracks it routes us out. The beeping you're hearing is our end of train device. Seeing the stuff on the back of the unit here. We're going to want to make sure that we have enough power here. We're 1.9 HPT, so it's almost 2.0. And according to the basic rules, so we're 1.9 HPT. If we're going to Needles or Seligman, 1.7 is the minimum. So we would be okay there. However, if we're going through the Mojave, which means towards Bakersfield, we'd need a minimum of 2.3 The Cajon, which is the way that we are going in San Bernardino, both require 2.0. So we are slightly underpowered here. We would need to throw a DPU on the back. For the sake of this video, we'll say that we have 2.0, the bare minimum required to go down the hill. And where I'm seeing that is right here, your horsepower per ton, also indicated up here of 1.9. So we're slightly underpowered, but for the sake of the video, we're good because I'm not going to be driving that far anyways. I want to show you on the switches, I again set them against us. So if we go up here to the dispatcher, and we're going to tone the dispatcher, which you can also type here if you know the codes which are on the map. Waiting for a response. Right there, I want to request departure from the yard, and he's going to take into account the tags that we have, the symbol. So we're MBAR STG03, we're BNSF 9129. Okay, you can see we just got an approach medium there. It's a flashing yellow light. Our switch has been set up for us already. If we hit the F3, we can see this is where we're going. And you can see we have the green track ahead of us with that flashing yellow light, which means we can pass that and be prepared to stop at the next one. So the signal rules also you can find from the depot. So let's go ahead and turn our lights to bright. I'm going to kick in a little bit of gas here. Make sure you're in gear. Parking brake or hand brakes are off. They would look like that if they were on. They're currently off. I do have the independent brake on. We can look down here and see that it's on. So I'll come off the independent brake now that I'm spun up. Again, 2 whistles saying that we are moving forward. The reverser did not switch for me for whatever reason, so I will go back into neutral and then come back up again after reducing throttle. We don't have to run the bell for very long because we're not at a crossing. Let's go to notch 4 to get things rolling a little bit here. See our accelerometer. We're also looking at our couplers. Right here, we don't want to go too crazy so we'll bust knuckles. So we'll slow down just a little bit to take some of the pressure off. Remember, we are underpowered for what we have here. So now we are moving. If we look from outside, see that we have all of our cars with us. Our lights are burning bright. And we don't want to exit the yard. We want to stay within 10 to 15 miles an hour inside the yard until we get the rear of our train on the main. Now we can do counters as well. There's a little counter. Again, that's up to you to figure out what key that does. But I have a distance counter up here. If I start it now, see I have 30, almost 4,000 feet of train behind me. So let's say you messed up your signal or your symbol, or you realize that auto is routing you the wrong way. They're going to send us down here to CP Hodge, which is towards the Cajon Pass, or the Cajon sub. But we need to go to the Mojave sub. But we have our route isn't set up to take us that way. So let's say that we just realized that the train symbol's wrong. And we need to go to Bakersfield. So we'll bring the train to a stop here. We'll actually call auto while we're letting the train come to a rest. And we're going to request to cancel the routing. You see the signal up there turns red. That means we cannot pass that now. It's an absolute signal. And as soon as we come to a rest, so we can focus on where we need to go. A little dynamic braking there. Okay, independent brakes on. Come out of the gear. Headlights go back to normal instead of bright because we're not actually moving and we're not on the main line. So we'll just leave them bright, or leave them at normal or dim, it's called. And let's change our symbol now so that when we ask our auto, hey, we want to go here, he'll know how to route us. So we're going to change. We're going from Barstow no longer to San Diego. Now we're going to Bakersfield. So three letter origination, 3-letter destination with the date after. So now we're M-bar back. Even though the cars are supposed to go to San Diego, I just, for demonstration purposes, we're going to now request to auto, and he will route us correctly based on the symbol that we, or the those 3 letters that we have. Now it's 2 for UP, 3 for BNSF. So if we look here, we're still waiting to get out. Our symbol, so what I did was I went to train, relinquish my train, because when I had it, I changed the symbol on it, but now we're bar back 03. So I'm going to ask auto again to route us to the right place. We want to request departure from the yard, and now he's routing us the right direction because of our symbol. We need to have our symbol similar to the direction that we're going. And he's taking us out to Hinckley. Let's cancel our route. Try this again. You can see, by the way, the signal now is different because we're going to be diverging on the track. Auto is not being very not very good to us. Let's see what it does. There it goes. So we asked for next siding. It's taking us to Hinckley. I don't understand why it's being a pain, but it's taking us the way we want to go. So let's we'll go ahead and get out of here. We go lights bright again. Give her some gas and we'll start pulling out. The EOT is responding. Notice back the train's moving, and now we're on our way. Let's see what it looks like when the switch is thrown in front of us. Okay, so we're going down the main line here, headed to Bakersfield, and we're going to go, we have a request to come down here off the Edwards siding, and we have a green light. So if we go and throw this hand switch on the siding that we wanted to get, this manual switch, see what happens. It says it won't let us. Reason is we have a light. So as soon as we pass that light, we should be able to do that. Some switches, auto won't let you change unless you have it. So we'd want to pass that light, and then we should be able to do that. We'll set the other switches. We can cancel routing, or we can knock down the switches over there, meaning we'll stop. So it's no longer lined up for that path, and then we'll be able to do it. So you see, I've got a diverging approach here. Yeah, I'm going to go on to a different track. So I'm past that signal now. If we look in here, you can now see that it is. I did not ask auto to go to this destination. So now we'll see if I can't throw this switch. Now let me throw it since we're past that signal. And we don't have any other clear signals down there. And then we look at the map. Since we're in this block, it's there, but that block will literally be red. So now if we look here, we'll see that this is a pink color. So that means that there's a switch open off of this line, a hand throw, to be cautious about. And that would be this one here. So it's coming off the main. And if I throw this back so that mainline operations are restored, we can see it turned back to white here. It'll be the same thing for this one, just as a siding, but it's coming off the main. So anytime you're diverted off the main, you'll see it changes colors. Well, okay, so I hope that helped you out a little bit on some basic train operations. So if you learned something, I mean, leave a like down below. But otherwise, these are all the things that we're going to be asking you to show. That's not all of them, but some of them. And then we'll get you on the road and get you on the server and helping us out. Well, thank you everybody for watching. I hope this helps you out. Remember, the two servers are the High Green Run 8 server and the Mateo Community server. The links below for the Discord, the links are displayed below to join the Discord. Request your skills test. All the things that we showed you. We'll practice, and I hope you all have fun. See you on the rails pretty soon. Take care.